Welcome back to episode 2 of season 1 of The Director's Chair, where we are discussing the works of David Lynch. And right now we are discussing his magnum opus, Twin Peaks. And we're going further down the rabbit hole tonight as we discuss episodes 2, 3, and 4. And with me is my top-notch crack team of FBI special agents, Kevin Pauly and Colin Smith. How are you guys?
Ready to talk peaks.
All right. So yeah, we get some. So I guess the great thing about these 3 episodes for me is we get get introduced to a lot more colorful characters. So when we get to episode 2, we get to meet the great character actor David Patrick Kelly as Ben's younger brother Jerry. There's Jerry Horn, which they're Ben and Jerry. We get to learn about much more of the seedy underbelly of Twin Peaks as we find out Ben Horn is associated with this casino / brothel.
We get one of my all-time favorite characters on the show. That's Miguel Ferrer as Albert.
Oh yeah, Miguel Ferrer, who's incredible, and I love his character and just his.
Well, this is where you get, like I said, one of my favorite characters in the history of the show, and that's Albert. Miguel Ferrer does such a tremendous job in that role, and Albert is such. I love this character.
Yeah, he's like no nonsense, no business, even though he's like very rude and belittling to all of the people of Twin Peaks. He's just very matter of fact and like, I'm here to do my job and that's all I'm here for.
Yeah, it's great. It was great seeing him introduced in this episode and sort of being taken back to their first experiences with Albert because, his character grows so much through the course of the next seasons 2 and The Return. So it's great to go back and remember, how he first came on the scene and what a great performance. And I'm so glad that he was around to be able to do The Return as well. It's such a great addition to the story.
Yeah, especially since did he pass before The Return came out?
I think so, right around that time, unfortunately. So it was quite a loss, but we are lucky to have all this great performance and this great role that he does. So it was great to see him in his first appearance.
Absolutely, and just like I said, just great delivery and performance from him, which is because what I've mostly known him from before watching this and seeing him pop up in other things is Bob from RoboCop, which just is a totally different performance from that, even though it's kind of still being a know-it-all. It's a very different kind of know-it-all.
Miguel Ferrer, with him, it's really his delivery, the actual the staccato of his voice, the way that he is so whip smart. He's like the anti-Agent Cooper, whereas Agent Cooper is so quick to be to have all these great, wonderful little anecdotes and kindness. Miguel Ferrer just does, as he even says, does not suffer fools lightly, and it's just the yins of Cooper's yang, basically. Again, he is a wonderful performer, and rest in peace to Miguel Ferrer, because honestly, he did a brilliant job in anything he was in, and really Albert became one of my favorite characters in Twin Peaks, and that remained all the way up through The Return. Albert is just one of those characters that just every scene he's in, I can't take my eyes off Miguel Ferrer, and every line that he utters is like hilarious and it's mean spiritedness.
Yeah, and is it this or is it the next episode where Sheriff Truman punches him?
I think it's the next one.
So
I
it's
think
it's while he was trying to do the
autopsy on
Yeah.
Laura.
because he ends up falling on the table, but it's from
It's
what
the next episode, I believe. I think. It
I
really
think
is.
you're right.
This is in this episode we get Cooper's amazing deductive skills of throwing stones. And
Right.
it's
Right?
one of the greatest things in the history of television. Actually, you get two of the most iconic David Lynch moments in this episode. You get that whole sequence, and you get our first visit to the Black Lodge. So this episode really, is one of the definitive episodes of the show. And I believe it's that kind of thing where if you could hang with this episode, after this, you were going to be okay through the first season, because it was introducing that dream logic, the weirdness of it all, Tibet, so there's a lot thrown at the audience in this episode, and it's kind of like you're either with it or you're not. But if you're with it, then you get, of course, rewarded with how this show unfolds. And to me, you just get some of the single best moments in David Lynch's work and in the history of Twin Peaks are all in this episode. I think it's one of the pivotal episodes of the entire series, from episode 1 and the pilot all the way up through the return. It's easily one of the most important episodes you'll watch.
Yeah, I agree. I've always felt that way too. That for me, this episode was kind of a bit of a litmus test. So if somebody watched this and went, "Oh, that was weird or interesting," then I knew that we weren't on the same wavelength. Whereas if they were like, "Wow, that was weird," and they were excited about it, then I knew that they had similar taste to me. I feel like this is one of the few episodes that's directed by of the first 2 seasons that's directed by David Lynch,
And if you feel it, you definitely feel it.
Yeah,
definitely
absolutely. I was about to say he lets it get very Lynchian in this episode, and I think it is
not just the dream sequence.
Yeah,
the whole episode.
Yeah,
the scene of Leland holding the picture of Laura, and he's like dancing. We have to dance for Laura. Like, that is such an iconic moment as well. And I talked about it in the last episode, but I'll still say Ray Wise's work in this series, all the way from the pilot episode through the return, does not get talked about enough. That he didn't get any Emmy nominations, that he didn't get any Academy Award nominations for his work in Fire Walk with Me, and I will defend his work and Cheryl Lee's work in that film as Oscar worthy until the day I die. That is a hill I will gladly die on. That the two of them never got that kind of recognition for their work in this show is really criminal. Ray Wise's work here, man. Leland could be done for just like cheap laughs, and he's not. He's very sincere. And of course, at this point, I don't believe they really knew that Leland was going to be the killer.
I don't think so.
Spoiler, sorry. It's been 30 years. Catch up.
right.
But I don't think they had an idea of where they were going with the character at that point. And so getting to see Leland just as a father going through grief, and the way that it hits him, grief hits us all differently. And it really is that moment with Leland and with Sarah, screaming at him, like, that is such a powerful moment. And it is such a Lynchian moment. That feeling of like, you could kind of laugh at it. And then there's also this sincere sorrow and almost like a sense of dread there as Sarah's screaming, like, what's happening in this house? It's such an accurate line to ask because there's a lot happening in that house. And that goes all the way up through the return. So yeah, Lynch's fingerprint is all over this, and every moment has that touch to it. David Lynch just has a beautiful way of working with actors and actresses and just getting these beautiful nuanced performances that, again, could be so one note. Again, this show has such soap opera pedigree that it'd be really easy to go down that path, and they don't. They pay homage to that background, but they don't let those things become laughing moments. There's plenty to laugh at, don't get me wrong. But moments like that, Leland with the poacher, again, that could have been done it could have been so goofy under anybody else's tutelage, but Lynch behind the camera and working with the actors really delivers a moment that is there's a lot of pathos in that moment, that you feel for Leland, and you feel his loss, and you feel Sarah's loss, because it's not just the loss of Laura, it's the loss of stability in the home. It's the loss of her relationship with Leland. There's so many things falling apart in the Palmer household that it just really, you start to feel the weight of that in just that one scene. But man, it is a potent scene.
Oh, definitely. And like throughout these episodes, because when they later see him at the hotel trying to dance with it, at the Great Northern. But a point Colin brought up last time we talked about the first two episodes, about they're already seeing hints after you've watched the show before. Mm-hmm. There's a hint here, like when we are introduced to the cousin, who's also played by Cheryl Lee. Yeah. Yes. And there's a look in Leland's face, like when you're first watching it, you're like, oh, he's just in a state of grief. She looks exactly like his daughter, but I think there's a look there, like something sinister a little bit in his eyes.
Sure.
It is remarkable to me that
this. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. Just when you get to repeat a show like this, that's a great thing. When you go back and revisit it, you do start noticing whether they're happy accidents or absolutely planned. It's something that rewards the viewer to go back and rewatch the series.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think it's remarkable that the actor probably didn't know that he was playing the killer at the time. Because there are when you go back now, you can read into so much of the performance. And I think that shows just how layered the performance is, because there's room for all that to be read into it, even if it wasn't all necessarily intended. And just the levels of grief and struggle and dealing with loss, but also with, as we layer on all of the issues of sort of responsibility and that sort of play into it throughout that, it just becomes this incredible thing to watch. It's difficult. I find that when Leland's on screen, I get the most uncomfortable now when I'm rewatching it. And of course, that's with the knowledge that I have from the future. But at the same time, it's, and I think that's evolved over time, because I think in my first watch, when I was just a kid, I was considering it, even after sort of the reveal, I considered it much more like a demonic possession and this split between who Leland was and the evil that had possessed him. And now I see it very differently, and I see it very much as a much more organic, story about domestic violence and sexual abuse. And so watching him, I mean, it is an amazing performance for him to pull all of that off. In that and in the movie, I think bringing up Fire Walk with Me I agree with you in all of those things. But seeing it here and seeing just at this point, the layers that are sort of put on top of each other, despite the fact that maybe all of the pieces hadn't been connected yet, it just is remarkable to watch. And I do find it so unsettling to watch him now. I don't know if you've heard the story about the picture breaking and the blood being real blood from one of the actors.
Real, yeah.
It was an accident. It wasn't intended. It was an accident, and they just went with it. And
he went Martin Sheen and Apocalypse Now on it, man.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So it's fascinating that again, so many happy accidents worked into the making of this first season, especially.
And isn't there a line, and it may have been in one of the previous episodes we already talked about, where Leland does or says something, and it might be actually in the next episode with the funeral, when he like puts himself, and I'm sorry to jump ahead, but puts himself on her grave. Doesn't Sarah make a comment like, you're ruining things all over again?
Yeah, don't ruin this too, I think is what she says. And again, just the layers that are there of how we can read that, knowing everything that we know now, and even from The Return, what we know about Sarah, or what we might struggle to understand about Sarah, maybe is a better way to put it. That we, that there again, just how it all comes together is remarkable. And there is a little bit of backward engineering. That whole dream sequence was put together we talked about this last time, was put together for the European version of the pilot so that it could have an ending. And it was just so magical that they wanted to incorporate it into the series, and they found this way to do it. And thank God, because it again becomes this pivotal one of the most iconic moments in television history.
Oh yeah, I mean, even Scooby-Doo has spoofed that whole sequence, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's come that far. It's come full circle. Yeah, it definitely, this episode does a lot of wonderful setups, some real heavy lifting, and that's usually the thing about the second episode of the show. The sophomore episode, like it's furthering what we got out of the pilot, but then it's also setting up all the things. And one of the scenes that we need to talk about, man, and it's a genuinely intense scene, is freaking Mike and Bobby. They're seen with Leo in the woods.
Oh yeah, that is just
terrifying, man. Terrifying.
Well, and also
it doesn't matter. The person behind the tree, yeah, it's creepy.
It is really horrifying. Yeah.
It also just shows how like unhinged and frightening Leo is as an individual, and just shows you how much Bobby and his friend are like way out of their league.
Yeah.
They like don't. They do not know what they've gotten themselves into.
And Leo basically hinting that someone's messing with Shelly. Like you start and we all know it's Bobby, but it's like, man, I would not want to be the guy who gets busted with Leo's gal. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Be that guy.
Well, and there never seems to be consensus as to who the actor was that was standing behind the tree when they shot the scene. There is some talk that it was Ray Wise, but other people say, and nobody can actually remember. It's this one of those, again, iconic stories that fits with the mystery of it, because that is one of the questions that's never been answered. And there were even moments in their turn where I thought, are they going to do something where they explain who that was, but they don't? And it's just one of those things that's never been answered, which adds to, I think, how genuinely creepy it really is.
Yeah, I mean, just that go out for a pass, like, man, and just like the football landing on the car. It's amazing. Like, this is made for television, and that's some of the most like tense filmmaking that would ever be put on the screen in 1990. I mean, like that. I mean, other than other things we're going to see later in the season, that is such a tense moment. And again, it's a simple scene, but it's shot so effectively. The way Lynch uses like flashlights and stuff in the woods to really give you that sense of sort of real lighting, not like that fake lighting that you normally see in films where you kind of got light behind the person that shouldn't be there. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Lynch keeps it really like natural, and that's what makes it so terrifying, because there are things in the shadows, trees, things like that. You can't get a good grip for what is there with you. And that is such an unsettling thing. And that this was done for network television is just
not
network
even television in 1990.
Yeah, network television in 1990, because I don't even know if cable had TV shows yet, and HBO
had some. Yeah, HBO
had
some.
But they weren't quite at the peak where they were.
No, they weren't HBO
in their heyday.
But they had good shows, but nothing like that. No.
But try walking through the woods with a flashlight after watching the series of Twin Peaks, and I'll tell you, it becomes a different experience than you ever had before.
You don't want to hear a goddamn owl for anything.
Yeah. But on a lighter note in these episodes, and I can't remember if it was in this episode, but it's at least in two of them, where we get to see like a soap opera within this show that they're watching, like, which is very
love.
Yeah.
Well, and I know that supposedly Lynch wasn't a fan of that trope and bringing that in, but I mean, they really did try to pair it with what was it like, have it echo in some way some of the stuff that was going on.
Yeah,
I mean, it completely disappears by season 2, but through season 1 we get these little moments, and the show is both paying homage to the soap opera genre. It's not a spoof in any way,
right?
It's paying tribute to it in a way, but it's doing it, but it's also critiquing it, and it's also really examining, maybe taking things to logical conclusions, some of the twists and turns that are sort of typical soap opera tropes. So having that in the background, I think, is a nice little touch. I appreciated having those little moments, even if they are very background to what is going on.
Well, that's what to the soap opera. We do get more expansion of James and Donna in this episode, where we finally see our Jonna or Dames, whatever you want to call their power couple name. where we really see that that's there. And again, there's such an innocence to their stuff.
Right.
A lot of people hate on James, and in season 2 I can get it a little bit, but in season 1 I cannot. I love James. He's that sort of rebel without a cause, but he's also got a heart of gold. You know, he's dealing with crazy Aunt Nadine, and you know his uncle, of course, is Big Ed. He's one of
his alcoholic mother, and
his alcoholic mother. Like, he's got so many things going against him, and he's still a good person. Like, James, by all accounts, should be as a schmuck like Bobby, and he's absolutely not. He's a good guy. And I love the fact that we get to, you know, it's one of the things I don't mind James and Donna. They make sense to me because there's even like a line where they say, like, it's almost like Laura was bringing us together. And I think that's right. I mean, I really do. It's one of the things that you take anytime you have a tragedy, you try to find the silver lining to it. And I think for the two of them, that's their moment of the silver lining of Laura's passing is she's gone, but we're here and we're together now. And I love, you know, Donna's family, you know, I mean, Doc Haywood's fantastic. Like they're all great. I love all that stuff. Like, I know it's very schmaltzy and very soap opera, but again, that's the homage part of it. And I just really love those little moments with them. I don't know. I'm a fan of James and Donna together. And I love how they kind of get into their own little, you know, Nancy Drew Hardy Boys mystery of trying to figure out things too. You know, they've got their own little subplot, and I dig it. But I do love seeing that progress in this episode.
Well, I do think that they were really building over the next few episodes. They were really trying to build up all the soapy subplots. The Ben and you know, all of the mystery, like all of the plots and the different relationships and the cheating and all of that. And so they were building those kind of soapy elements into the story and really fleshing them out. The Josie storyline, like everything, they're really starting to build that up. And it's great to see that because there's this story so juicy and so entertaining. And again, you know, you can say things went off the rails in season 2 a bit around some of this, but generally, I think that they offer us a lot besides the Laura subplot, which I know originally. And that's
the important part of the show, exactly, is it's not just reliant on Laura's mystery. That's just one. All of it is so interesting, the intrigue and stuff. And I'm going to be honest, I first watched this, you know, I'd never had it before, but I've never wanted to eat a brie and butter baguette more in my life than I do at the opening of that scene with Jerry bringing in those sandwiches to Ben and the way that they eat them. Oh my God. Like, I just desperately want a sandwich that good in my life. Like one that literally makes me sniff it like a cigar and just start going into it like corn on the cob. Like, man, I want that sandwich so bad. I want that sandwich for me so bad. And the only thing I want more is that goddamn smoked cheese pig. That's the only thing I want more.
And the fact that they're in the middle of dinner and he's like, well, screw whatever food we're eating. This looks amazing.
Later, I'm going to eat this baguette. Later, I'm getting French. Like, yeah, dude. And it's like, oh, by the way, later, family, we're going to go to my brothel / casino.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to.
Ben Horn is such a dick. Can we just come out and say that? They're like, Ben Horn is a straight up dick, man.
Yeah.
He's sleazy, too.
He's a dick.
Yep. I wanted to before we move on too much from episode 2, I definitely want to talk about the bottle throwing because you mentioned it briefly there. And again, another iconic scene from the series. One of those things that, you know, now when you know everything that you know and you go back to watch it, you can piece together, why did this rock do this? Why did the one bounce off the tree? Why did the one and it could all just be random, you know, sort of whatever. But, you know, it's interesting how, and yes, they were using Leo as a diversion. And so the bottle breaks. But I mean, there's a good reason why the stone would break the bottle when Leo's name was said, right? Like, it's still fits. He was there on the night. He was the last person to see her alive, really. Yeah. So definitely, you know, that scene is great because it's entertaining, it's funny, it's interesting, it's full of mystery. It's got so much of the cast and they all just interact in such fascinating ways. Like, it's just so skillfully done. Like, Lynch really, as you said, this is some of his best work.
Oh man,
absolutely.
That scene is so great because it is so charming and so funny. It really is. Like, you know, Lucy, like, does anybody want to freshen up? And they're all just like, oh yeah, bring out the cups and stuff. And then Cooper just spitting out the cup. It's damn good coffee. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like the way that they're all sitting on the steps, where they're all like on their little logs and they all lean forward like together in unison. Like,
Yep.
Poor Andy, like just over there by the tree, like when it hits him in the head and shit. Like, it's such a charming scene. And yet at the same time, tell me any time in your life that you've watched a scene of someone throwing a rock that you were not waiting with bated breath to see how it turned out. Which one's going to be the right name? Which one's going to have an impact? And you're just sitting there waiting to see what's going to happen as soon as he throws it. Like, it's so ridiculous. It shouldn't work at all. And yet it's absolutely one of the best scenes in season 1, one of the best scenes Lynch has ever directed, and one of the best scenes in Twin Peaks history. It shouldn't work, but it absolutely.
And it does such good character development for Cooper. It teaches us so much about him, but it also teaches us about the rest of the cast that's there. And it even helps with that episodic television idea of with a huge multicast, because he says the name, they flash to the image of the character.
Yeah, and we hear their relationship to Laura, so you get that reinforcement. Yeah, it's so smart. So smart. It really is.
It's doing that expository thing that most of the time is done so badly and that we criticize, but in a way that's just brilliant and works completely.
And entertaining.
Yes.
And entertaining. Yeah. It's a good way to get through those as you say, exposition of like a procedural show on CBS would do something way less interesting.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, who are our suspects? Blah blah blah.
Right. Yeah. So I didn't want us to not talk about that scene, because again, I do feel like this episode 2 is one of the most essential elements of the series, one of the most iconic episodes of TV ever. And and it's not just the dream sequence. Yes, the dream sequence is incredible art. Yeah.
Well, again, we'll bring it up. You brought it up, Colin, last time, and I don't think it was purposeful, because they probably didn't know what direction the show was going to go in, or that it was going to get canceled. But the fact that in the dream she says 25 years, and
25 years later,
is it 25 years later the return?
It's almost. I think it was 24 years, but I can't remember exactly. Yeah. But it's very close. Yeah.
Yeah, it's as close as they could be, honestly. With another studio taking over and Lynch getting to do 18 hours of television, it's as close as you can get. It was definitely good enough for government work, man. It worked. It was
exactly. Yeah, it's just that quick. Again, so many happy accidents. Lynch, I'm sure when he was directing that, like he said, he put it together in one of his, like, I think he said he saw it in a dream or something, or when he blacked out. There's a whole story that he tells about where those images came from. And he just worked it into this story, and it was just there to be artful in so many ways, didn't necessarily feed any specific narrative. And of course, plunking it in here. And then retroactively, writers had to go around trying to put together the pieces and how does this relate to things? And in some ways, that creative process is almost better than if they had plotted it all out. Okay, this is our mystery. This is how we're going to build a dream around how to reveal these clues. I think it's so much better that instead they just had this mess of a beautiful thing, and then they had to pull pieces out to try to connect the story together later. And I think that's just brilliant, and it's part of what makes the mystery in Twin Peaks so incredible.
And I can't remember which episode it is out of these 3, but talking about the soap opera they're watching, when I think Truman asks, or maybe it's Cooper, asks Lucy, like, what's going on? And I think it's Truman. And she gives them a whole plot recap of the episode.
Just ending it with poor Chet. That gets me every time. Poor Chet. I meant here, Lucy.
Which is echoing the water cooler nature of the series at the time, and how people go home and talk to their coworkers about the last night's episode, all of that stuff. Like, it's so meta in a way, right?
Which is something we've lost now in the age of streaming, right? There's not really that water cooler show anymore, because we're all actively watching different things at the same time. We're not watching this show on Sunday night or Monday night anymore.
Occasionally an HBO show, whether it's Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones or something captures that, where everybody does kind of watch it that night, and they still release them week to week. So there's a little bit of that, but it's not certainly to the extent that it was back in Twin Peaks day, for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Now, looking at, because we're going into episode 3, this is a big one too, because this is where we get to meet Madeline. This is where Laura's cousin, and again, really great that Cheryl Lee finally got to do something besides just be a corpse in a picture. Right. She actually gets to be a part of the lore, and really, Madeline ends up being a critical character. Like you don't know it to begin with, but boy, she becomes incredibly important as we get in, especially into the second season.
And it's a great performance. It's like
really absolutely
for that.
She's not Laura. I mean, she's absolutely not. When you see how Cheryl Lee performs as Laura and how she performs as Madeline, they're two very different characters, man. They really are.
Yeah.
But this this is where we learn about the Bookhouse Boys.
Yep.
That's good stuff all around right there, man. Like, we get our little eye move and stuff. The Bookhouse Boys are fantastic. This is, a lot of good stuff happens in this episode. This is also, this is where we get the whole funeral for Laura, and again,
what a great moment!
Great,
great
moment.
Just
Bobby's speech,
really,
it's really good. He just lays it out there.
Turns it upside down.
Yeah. No, it's a great moment, and I, as much as I rave about episode 2 and how sort of pivotal it is in TV history, that doesn't mean that the other episodes in season 1 are not. So are all top level. Yeah.
And all killer, no filler. It's such a great season of TV.
There is no filler. That's exactly right. There's no filler here. That scene with Bobby and his dad, the scene with Bobby at the funeral, the impact of just on the town. It's so powerful to watch again. Like watching it again, coming back to it, I was struck by how powerful it really was and remains.
Well, everything that the preacher says too about how he had her in Sunday school and stuff, and how much he loved her and stuff. Like, it really goes to show. It's one of the things that Cooper tells Albert. Around here, lives mean something. A life means something. Life lost has an impact, and that's one of the things that this episode does a really good job of really cementing. Is that this is a close-knit community. It's a weird community. Don't get me wrong. There are layers of weirdness and deceit and corruption all over this thing. But at its core, this is a simple little town where something so horrific has happened that it literally impacts everyone. Everyone feels it.
Because it's that small of a community. Everybody knows everyone. Something like this is a tragedy beyond measures, because even though we find out there's this seedy underbelly in Twin Peaks, looking at its picturesque view, you would think the crime rate in Twin Peaks has got to be like next to nothing. What are the sheriff's department? They're not equipped to deal with murder investigations.
No.
And one of the things that I think this episode really brings to the fore is that Laura isn't just fridged. She's not just a device, even if that was sort of the network's intention. Like, they make her a consequential person. She eventually gets to be, the hero of her own story, I think. I'd argue when we get to Firewalk with Me and The Return. But she is so much more than just a woman whose death sparks, other people's stories, right? And and I think that this scene is one of the first times, the funeral scene is one of those first times that we really get to really start to experience that. So I appreciate this episode very, very much.
And honestly, you can say that the funeral scene is kind of like everything you love about Twin Peaks in one scene. Like it's got pathos, it's got the emotion. Then it's also got like that quirky humor. I mean, Leland jumping on the casket is tragic, but at the same time, it's kind of funny, especially when Shelley recants it to the guys at Double R.
Right?
Shelley's got a little bit of a dark side.
But it's funny. Yeah. It's so funny.
Well, I mean, she had to be attracted to Leo somehow.
Right. But it's like everything that you love about Twin Peaks really is in that scene. I mean, it's got a little bit of everything. And you know, you get the tension between Bobby and James, you know, where he's like basically
Yep.
trying to kill him right there at the funeral. You know, you've got all of that underlying tension. You've got, you know, just so much in that scene. And again, it could have been played so differently. It could have been played very soapy, and it's not. The thing that really gets me every time I watch it now, it is the preacher. He's so earnest in that. It's not, there's nothing fake about it. It's so very genuine. And I don't know, that guy really is like almost the MVP of that scene, man, because he really solidifies the loss. He really solidifies the impact that it's having on everybody around that casket. That guy really, unsung hero of that scene, really, that is powerful, really a powerful performance. But yeah, I think that scene right there, like you said, for episode 3, I mean, that is the key part of that episode, and it is really and truly an incredible moment of television in that first season.
And it's a very naturalistic performance versus what like Ray Wise and the guy playing Bobby are doing in that scene.
Yeah, it is very low key.
Because they are very elevated, melodramatic.
But that's the great thing. It's you know, everybody involved with that scene knew that he needs to not be that. He needs to not be the Hell from the Brimstone preacher. He needs to not be like a Southern Baptist guy. I'll tell you, I miss Laura Palmer, and y'all need Jesus. Like, he's not that. He's not that at all. He's a very genuine and sincere man, and it's a really beautiful delivery. You know, everything leading up to the funeral as well. I mean, like the autopsy. You know, where they're all so upset that Albert doesn't want to let loose her body because Albert knows he's only got one chance to find everything he can possibly find. He's like, and he has a line. It's harsh, but he's true. But he's right. He's like, look, you can have a funeral any old day, okay? But I've only got so much time to do this autopsy and to get it right. You can have your funeral any old ass day. Everybody together, you get the preacher, you put the body in the ground. But right now, this is real work, and I need to be able to do it. And of course, that definitely leads to the infamous punch, which, you know, Albert's got it coming. I'm not gonna lie, Sheriff Truman. And Cooper is right there with him. He's like, I'm not going to sign your paper, by the way, because you earned that shit, Albert. You brought that on yourself. But that is, again, great scene. You've got Doc Haywood, and he's very upset about it. I mean, he delivered Laura, and he couldn't do the autopsy himself. He had to have someone else do it. And so having Albert being so crass about it when it's, you know, Albert not understanding that, again, Cooper puts it in very plain terms, like lives mean something here. It's just the simple fact. He doesn't get it. And we really do get to understand like what makes Twin Peaks so special because of that funeral scene. But it's like even the lead up to it, you know, all the drama behind the scenes at the autopsy. It's a very intense scene. It's also, again, kind of a funny little moment when Albert does get punched, like the way he lands on the body and stuff. You know, it's a funny moment. I can't lie. It'll get a twisted chuckle out of me. But again, it's building up to that funeral scene, and there's so much build up. Madeline showing up with Leland, and you know, then the stuff with the autopsy leading up to the funeral. Bobby and Major Briggs leading up to the funeral, and it's really just a masterclass in storytelling. That episode is everything is leading to that moment, and again, all killer no filler. Every single scene is doing something, building up to something, and that's what's so important in this first season. Is every single storyline is going somewhere. Every single storyline is getting its due. It may not be every single episode, but almost every single episode, everybody is doing something to move the plots forward, and that plots, plural, to move them all forward. And I think this episode does a great job of that too. Yeah,
and we get more of these little breadcrumbs for people who are invested in the investigation, right? We find Albert finds out that the marks on Laura come from bird bites, you know, and
a mockingbird.
You know, I also think it shows the complicity of the town. So even if it's not that they were involved in her death, it's that they all, like what Bobby says, they all knew she was in trouble. They're all turning a blind eye. And, you know, I think what we know better now than maybe was as sort of publicly discussed sort of at the time around, you know, abuse in families. You know, people are turning the other way. People are turning a blind eye. And I think this scene implies some of that again, even though we don't necessarily have that information when we first see the scene. Watching it again, I really got this sense of the how the town is implicated in Laura's death, regardless of how specific who the killer was. There is this idea that people probably saw stuff that they looked away from, and
Absolutely.
that's a really powerful thing to watch as well.
Well, if we dig deep, because I don't think, we know exactly what people know or don't know, but we know definitely that Bobby knows something's up, right? Because they were dating. And we talked about, bringing James and Donna together. Not only are they bonding over this tragedy, but I think Laura saw something because she knows she's probably too damaged and messed up to be with a guy like James. And it's like, well, Donna's a good person and my friend, and I think they would be good together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Jacoby probably knows some shit, because.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Jacoby is again such a great casting of Russ Tamblyn in that part.
Yeah.
He's so good in that role.
He is so good.
And I love that Jacoby, of course we find out he's the one that has the other half of the pendant. He went out and the image that Sarah saw was Jacoby getting the pendant there in his little coconut, which of course it would be in a coconut. Why would it not be? It's so great. But yeah, Jacoby is definitely an interesting character because again, in the previous episode, they set him up. The stone breaks, when Jacoby's name is called. So you got two LJs, Leo Johnson, Lawrence Jacoby. And I like the fact that, Jacoby's involvement. Jacoby is not innocent in any way, shape, or form, even though he didn't kill her.
No.
His relationship with her and his intentions towards her are far from innocent.
His license needs to be revoked.
For sure.
Like last year, man, gone.
Yeah.
He could be out there shoveling shit with gold painted shovels. That's what he needs to be doing.
He does not need to be practicing psychiatry.
I honestly believe they never intended Leo or Jacoby to be the killer. Because they very much fill that sort of distraction area. But the film or the series, one of the things that's great about it is that they don't use them and in that throwaway way. They actually make their characters relevant and important anyways.
Yeah, there is a
just
connection to Laura.
Yeah,
no, exactly. That's
right.
a great point. There is an actual connection to her. It's not just happenstance. It's not just, Leo Johnson's a scary guy, so it's probably him because he's got a hot temper. No, there's a relationship there. And it involves cocaine, which is never anybody's friend. If you've learned anything from the 80s, people, cocaine is not your friend.
Right.
Unless you're an exec in Hollywood. It's not your friend. So, it definitely is a good point. Jacoby has a connection to her. Is he the killer? No, but his connection to her is a very deep and disturbing connection. He's heard shit, he knows shit, and he didn't do anything about it. He didn't do anything to help.
In fact, he almost giggles about it at one point when he's talking to Cooper, right? It's disturbing watching. I mean, he's played and all, what you guys have said so far about the dual layers that are going on. He's one of those great examples of a character that is both someone to laugh at and is funny, but is also terrifying and scary because of his darkness. And they both at the same time. It's not. It goes back and forth between those. It's all happening at the same time. And you're right. What a great performance. Yeah, great. Well,
and the scene even when he talks to Bobby, about Laura, the way he breaks him down, cuts out the bullshit and breaks him down, man. Jacoby he's a more potent character than you think he is.
Yes.
We first see him with the golf ball trick where he's putting the golf ball in his ear, pops out his mouth and stuff. It's so goofy, but it's that's what Cooper is getting out of this whole moment. But it's when you find out more about him, and you find out this guy's talking to the various kids of Twin Peaks, and he knows all their dark shit, and he knows where to get the best cocaine now. I mean, it's just this guy is not the help that he needs to be. He's absolutely not. And that, again, makes him a very scary person because he knows everybody's secrets. And what does a person like him do with that? That's – and unfortunately, in the case of Laura, he did jack shit. And that's why she ended up.
Can we talk about Catherine and Josie and Ben? I think that whole
man,
that's so much fun. I love it whenever they're on screen.
Hyper Laurie,
actors.
She's
the three actors all so good.
Pro. Yeah. And just that whole dynamic of Jack Nance trying to give Josie the key and try to find the real books, even though she's got the cooked books.
The two ledgers, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so soapy and so great, but it just feel like it's so much more delicious than it would be on a regular soap opera.
Oh God,
right?
yeah.
Like,
Well,
Yeah.
Piper Laurie is
Yeah.
really the secret weapon there.
Yeah.
She's so effortlessly good as Catherine
Yeah.
Martell. Like,
she is.
God damn, man. Catherine Martell is one of the best characters on this show, especially in the first season.
Yeah.
And Piper Laurie, I mean, like, she totally knows it. She totally gets what the goal of this show is. She gets
Yeah.
like how it needs to be performed.
She
And she's
understands
so
the assignment for
deliciously evil.
sure.
Mhm.
Deliciously evil. Oh, she's
And-
wonderful. Wonderful.
Just their scene in that motel room in the next
Yeah.
episode is just the two of them together is just so entertaining. Like they're just
Well, yeah, you've got
they might as well just be like cackling, like maniacal laugh, you know.
you literally like you have Ben Horn and you have Catherine Martell. They are two of the most conniving,
Yeah.
like mean-spirited, like selfish people in the town, maybe the two most. And they're getting it on together in a cheap little motel. Like,
Yeah.
of course they are. Why would they
Of course,
not?
of course. And I love how Josie, like Joan Chen, does a great job too because she's playing Truman, she's playing.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
She's
she's
playing.
one of the smartest people in the room, man.
Yeah.
And you
Oh,
find
yeah.
out more about that as the season goes on. Yeah, Josie is such a great character. I love
Yeah.
her relationship with Harry, and I do genuinely
Mhm.
believe that she loves Harry. She
I
cares about him.
agree. I
She-
agree.
she
but
really
she's
does.
still using him.
Still using him, but she does
Yeah.
genuinely care about him.
Yeah.
I mean,
does.
she did bring back some really nice lingerie for him at the beginning of season 2. I've been watching forward, and I'm like, I forgot about that, Steve. Yeah. So yeah, she cares. Damn it, she cares. She brought back really nice lingerie for Sheriff Truman. But I do love again the very soap opera, beeline that is their storyline. The burning down of the mill, the cooked books. I mean, it is soap opera to perfection, is what it is. But again,
Absolutely.
everybody's in on it. Everybody knows that we're going to play this very straight. We're not playing this like a soap opera. We're playing it like a genuine drama, and that's why it works. Everybody's in on the trick. Everybody's in on the joke, really.
Yeah.
And it's so good. Everybody in the whole Martell, Packard, the Packard sawmill stuff in general. That whole beeline is such a great beeline. It's such a great story piece. It really is.
Yeah, I love how it all comes together. I love how much intrigue there is, and then we get more little pieces of it sort of coming together as in terms of Andrew's murder, little snippets that just tweak our interest to keep us going, and none of them are good people. Like they've all got dirty hands. And yet they make us like them all in different ways, right?
I think the only good person in the bunch is Pete.
Yes, Pete. Of
He's
course.
the only good
Of
person.
course.
Like,
Yeah.
he is genuinely good. Pete,
And I
Pete's
agree
good.
that Josie sincerely likes Pete. Like I don't think,
I
but
think
she's
so, too.
also
I
using him
genuinely-
too. Like
Oh, she totally is using him.
going to totally use him, but I think Pete even kind of picks up on it. Like
yeah,
I think when
Yeah.
he's helping her out with the ledgers and stuff, like he knows what's up. He
Yeah.
knows what's going on, but he's also so tired of Catherine's shit.
Yep.
You know what?
He's like, go for it.
Yeah, I'm going to put my boots on the bed, and she's going to get mad about it. Go get
yeah,
it.
yeah. Even though I do like the fact that as the series moves on, you get a sense that despite everything that's going on between them, I think Catherine and Pete do love each other to a certain degree too. And Catherine truly loves him despite what she's prepared to do with everything.
We'll get to the end of this season, but Pete genuinely shows how much he loves her. He really does. Pete is like really one of the best people in Twin Peaks. A good person. That you
him
can
and the Haywards, like he's in that.
Yeah, they were pretty much it, man. Like that, they're good people. They really and Pete really is just. I love Jack Nance anyway, and I love that David Lynch puts him in everything. And what a great role for Lynch to give him. Pete Martell is such a great character, and so lovable. Like he really is. He's very, very lovable. And Catherine Martell is not, but she's lovable because she's so despicable.
You still like her in different ways, though.
her.
Just like with Ben, like there's reasons why you like them anyways, even though they're awful and they're so
they're horrible people. Yeah,
Was because of the talent of the two actors playing those roles is why. Because otherwise these are despicable people. But Piper Laurie is just so amazing that
And she
You know.
really like that. She didn't get an Emmy nomination for her work in this show.
I
is
thought
sort of
she
like-
did. I thought
got a
she was
nomination,
one
but
of the
she
ones
should
that
have
did.
won. She should have
Right.
absolutely won. Cooper won, but McLaughlin won, but she should have won. Man, Piper Laurie is outstanding.
Yeah,
good.
she really is. She
Oh my
really
god!
is.
But that
Great.
sce-
She's the secret
scene with
weapon.
the boots is that Pete loves to like kind of get a rise out of her, like
Oh, yeah.
couples,
No, he
like
absolutely
couples
loves
do
pushing
sometimes. Like I'm just gonna like see if I can piss you off because it's kind of fun.
Yeah,
Yep. No, Pete definitely he loves pushing the buttons, and you see it in that scene. But it's also I like that Pete he really cares about Josie. He doesn't know everything about Josie, but he really cares about Josie, and the fact that he's willing to get involved, that he's willing to help her get that ledger. You know, it says a lot about him and his relationship. That they have such a sweet, like almost like father-daughter relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Well,
really
yeah,
love
because he asked her if she wants to be in the fishing competition with him.
It's such a sweet little moment. Like, goodness gracious. And like Josie fixing Pete his sandwich and putting the extra mayo on it because she's making it and not Catherine. Catherine's gone. Like, it's those little moments, man, that just I love Pete and Josie's bromance. It's really sweet.
Yeah.
You know, and even though we know Josie is a much more complex character, in those simple little moments, I do think we see like real Josie. I think that's what she'd like her life to be.
Yes.
It's just
Mhm.
unfortunate that it's
Because
not, but I
Josie
think
doesn't feel
he-
like she's truly an awful person. She feels like
No,
she's had
no, not at
awful
all.
life experiences and she's learned how
Yes.
to adapt.
Yes,
Mhm.
she is basically an adaptive person. She just rolls with what life has thrown at her. But
Yeah.
you can see the moments with her and Pete. I think they're genuine, and I think
Yeah.
if she could have that relationship as like a permanent fixture in her life, she would
Yeah.
absolutely like let Pete.
He's the
basically
father that she wished that she
Yeah.
had, the family that she wished she
Kick
had.
Catherine
Truman,
out.
if she could have had that relationship with Truman, be honest and real,
Right.
like she would have wanted
Right.
that for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
right. And I love. By the way, we haven't talked enough about Michael Onkeen. I love Sheriff Truman so much. What a great role. What a really great role. And Michael Onkeen does such a great job with that part because again,
Yeah.
he could be such a one-note goofball, cornball character, and he's absolutely not.
No.
I love Sheriff Truman. I love every scene he's in, and I love him and Cooper together. Their bromance is one of my
Yeah.
favorite
Yeah.
in all of modern pop culture.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about? We don't see much of it yet, so maybe it's a little too early. But I was just wondering if we want to talk about One-Eyed Jack, since we were talking about Ben a little bit. We only get hints of it so far. I don't.
We
think-
get hints of it in the previous episode, right, with Jerry
With
and
Jerry
Ben.
and Ben, yes, but we also get the chip in
Yeah.
Laura's stomach with the J. So yeah, One-Eyed Jack's is
Yeah.
about to become really super important. And I love the idea that this town, like Ben Horn, like owns everything basically because of his department store. Like
Right.
he just owns everything because his department store is so successful. And the idea that he has the Great Northern, he's got this, that the idea that in his spare time, he's like, you know what else I'd like to have? A casino/brothel. He's totally going to make that happen. And he does. And he uses his damn department store to get the girls for it. Like, what?
Yep.
No, it's
What an
really,
absolute
really
Such a
dark.
creeper.
really dark.
And
Yeah.
how many of those girls are underage? You know,
Right, that's my whole
Right.
thing. How many of them? I mean, Laura and Ronette were high school students. Jesus, like,
I know.
like, what?
I know it's
I
dark.
mean,
Like I sometimes I'm reminded of that, and I forget how dark this part of the whole story really is.
Well, and we also are starting to see Ronette. They've now found her. She's shown up. She's her body, of course. She's like kind of still in the coma at this point.
Yeah.
But Ronette, I will tell you right now, man. When you first see her physical, like all the scars and like that's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And when you see her in that bed, and she's just this poor child, man. When once you've seen the movie, you know exactly what she saw that night. And Christ Almighty, you wouldn't wish it on your worst enemy on your worst day.
Mhm.
So Ronette, it's amazing. Like right now, she's still in the background, but boy, she's about to come forward. And really, the moment when she like comes out of it, when she's shown the pictures and stuff, that's a couple episodes down the line. But
Mhm.
that's one of the most amazing moments in the season for me. Like it really gets you every time. And again, I think that character Ronette is such an interesting thing because we don't know a lot about her, but we know she was there. We know she was with Laura. Somehow she made it out alive. And there's even the mystery of her, like how did she make it out alive?
Right.
How was she not killed and Laura was? Like,
Right.
what really happened? So you get Ronette to just continue further build up the mystery around Laura Palmer and her murder without having to rely on Laura Palmer. Ronette's her own storyline, and it's about to, start making the move there too. So it's really interesting in these first 3 episodes, the things they're setting up that of course will have payoff, but it's really amazing the heavy lift that goes on in episodes 2 and 3. Big heavy lifts.
And we were introduced to Bob in the dream, but then we get the drawing, and we get the the connection. I think in the "I'm a strong sender" line, which is one of the great lines. But we get this. We start to see that there is this. Like this part of the mystery is, certainly very intriguing because it certainly hints at the supernatural, but it also, the image of, Bob at the end of the bed is still one of the most terrifying.
Absolutely.
Man. Like just even his drawing on the poster. Have you seen this man? Like that drawing is so nightmare inducing. And that's again, we'll get there with Ronette, but that's what brings Ronette, out of it when she sees that fucking picture.
Yeah.
It's just, and it's so funny, Frank Silva, if you ever saw interviews with him, the sweetest person on the planet.
Right,
Goodness gracious, like the sweetest person ever. But my God,
and not an actor, then yet
not even an actor, right? He was just helping out behind the scenes.
He was like a boom guy or operator or something. But he pulls off this incredible performance that is just blood curdling.
Oh God, like. I'll tell you right now, Bob is one of the scariest things that's ever existed in pop culture. Like genuinely.
Season 2, crawling over the couch, like that scene gives me chills. Even as it's about to happen, I start to get the chills. Yeah.
It's and it's coming, and it still gets you every time. It really does. Frank Silva, seriously, the work he did in that part. I mean, man, like for not having a background in acting, for not being there as an actor. Creates one of the all-time great villains, like one of the scariest things ever put on screen, small or big. And in both cases, he's genuinely terrifying. And I like the fact that we're when you first get the picture and stuff, we don't know yet quite how supernatural it's going to get.
No, we don't.
We just know that there's this scary ass guy that's out there that possibly killed Laura Palmer. Dude sure looks like it. It's got to be him, right? But then, of course, when we find out what Bob really is, it becomes a very, very different thing. And again, those supernatural ticks are there. But I like the fact that they haven't gone all in on it yet.
No,
They're
exactly.
still letting that hover.
Little tastes.
A little taste of it until we finally get when they really take the plunge with it. But yeah, man, this episode, these first 3 episodes are really, it's just amazingly great television. You just don't get anything quite like it anymore, and if you do, it's thanks to Twin Peaks. Like any modern show worth its salt is definitely taking some inspiration from Twin Peaks. Like you can't tell me that it's not, because man, these episodes are so good. And going into the 4th episode, episode 4, where we get the One-Armed Man, the tie into The Fugitive. Great. It's even we start to get this now, and so man, we're getting so much stuff going on in these first few episodes. Like there's a shit ton going on, and now we're getting to learn about Hank Jennings.
I was just gonna say Hank.
Hank.
Here we go with this. And Hank's gonna be a big part of this season, man. Shit.
Yep. And
the little taste. To introduce them, we get the domino, we get the threat.
Yeah, that creepy where he's sucking on the domino shit. It's just creepy.
Well, I was not going to say, another creepy character, and what we're going to learn later on in this show is this is someone that makes Leo scared, Like this.
Yeah. And you'll see good reason why later on in this season, man. This is big stuff. This is big stuff. This is the episode, by the way, where Cooper is doing the meeting with Jacoby, where he's doing the golf ball trick. It's this episode. I was looking at the thing, and I'm like, I forgot it is this one. And I do appreciate that Andy is the one that sketches Bob. I appreciate how good he is as an artist.
Talk about another performance where that could have just been a goofy over the top or like next to nothing performance, and he is giving like all kinds of subtleties and
Harry Goaz is
interesting character work, and just the whole inner section between him and Lucy is its own show, right?
yeah.
Like their own little drama, and like him, like her getting mad at him about drinking too much coffee and him being confused why she's mad, and all the other guys are like, yeah, women, they're a mystery.
Yeah, Andy, I'll just
But
say
we don't know why she's mad yet. We find out.
Yeah,
later,
we don't know. Right.
Yet.
I'll just say this though: if someone tells me Andy's their favorite character, I totally get it. Like I totally get it. Andy is such a sweet, simple creature. He's so wonderful. But man, he, like you said, that could have been such a thankless role. That could have been such a one-note role, and they do not let him go down that path. Harry Goaz really just. He balances that fine line of making Andy someone that you can laugh at, but also someone that you genuinely care about. You know, someone who seems kind of inept, but he's really smarter than you think.
He's the one that finds Waldo, right? He discovers Waldo in the files.
Mm-hmm.
He's
when we find out Bob was a veterinarian, and then we find out the bird that was there, that's how we find out who Jacques is, you know?
Yes, that's how we get Jacques Renault. That's right. Yeah, this is another great episode because we do get Gordon Cole for the first time.
David Lynch, yes.
Like, I'll tell you right now, Gordon Cole is in my top 5 favorite characters of this entire show.
Right.
Maybe my top 3. I adore Gordon Cole. My God in heaven, especially in The Return. I adore Gordon Cole.
Well, my favorite thing is we don't know yet that he's deaf, right?
No. Right.
So right now he's just kind of playing the role of like the police chief or the boss in a police show who's yelling, but he's not yelling angrily. He's just yelling, which is
yelling because he's deaf. It's so good.
But that's how most of the cop shows are. You know, the boss is yelling at whoever
I'm gonna have your badge for breakfast. You've crossed the line. You're a loose cannon.
The mayor's up my neck.
The mayor's up my ass about this. Yeah, it's that thing. Yeah.
And you do wonder again, is it just a happy accident? Were they intending him to come in and have this character actually be a real character, or was he just saying, "Oh, you know, Cooper needs to speak to the chief. David Lynch will do the voice because that'll be funny, and then that'll be the end of it."
Right.
But who knows? I don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't heard it.
Again, in the long grand scheme of things, if someone tells me Gordon Cole is their favorite character, I'm like, I get it. I get it completely. I love Gordon Cole. Change your hearts or die. You know, like he's such a great character.
Again with the exposition scenes, right? And how well with the exposition scenes and how well the series handles it. As we get into this, last episode that we're talking about today, the sitting down and going through the evidence, that Albert has figured out is such a great way to advance so much of the story, give so many clues, but in a way that feels organic and real and completely honest.
It doesn't feel like an exposition dump.
Right.
Yeah.
But it gives us so much in terms of just mystery, plot, all of that stuff.
Yeah. I'll also say, too, we haven't talked enough about Big Ed and Norma.
Man, the whole Norma exchange about those drapes and her thanking him like he did something amazing last night, getting the grease on now they don't make no noise.
Yeah, the whole Ed and Norma, again, so soapy, but there's something about the performance of those two actors who just do such an amazing job. You feel it. You feel their longing. You feel their loss. It's just so rich.
Feel it so much.
And in The Return, that payoff is one of the moments that is just the
most. My God, I legit teared up in The Return. Without spoilers, I'm just going to say I genuinely teared up. That's one of the most amazing payoffs to something in my life. And the two of them, Everett McGill, I first saw him in Dune.
Yep.
Right.
And I really love him in Dune. I think he's great as Stilgar. I think he's really, really great in that role. And then, of course, I saw him as, of course, the preacher in Silver Bullet. So I was excited, of course, when I realized who that was, when I figured him out and I saw him in the cast. And Everett McGill is one of those actors, I don't think he gets enough credit for just being a damn good actor.
Mm-mm.
He's so effortlessly good as Ed. Like,
Yeah.
it's like he's not even trying. It's like he is Ed.
That's just him.
Yeah, it's so natural, and the way he reacts to Nadine, the way you know that Ed cares about her. Like,
absolutely,
exactly, of course.
Yeah.
The love of his life is Norma, but goddamn, he does love Nadine in his own weird, special way. He does.
That's right.
And Nadine is a lot to love. So, Ed, God bless him. He's kind of got the patience of a saint with her. Yeah. And you totally still love the thing with him and Norma. It's interesting that Ed is technically, he's cheating on Nadine, but we don't look at him as a bad guy because of it, because it's not coming from a place of like Ben Horn just wanting to get himself, get his, his stick wet wherever he can. He literally is torn between these two women. Yeah. One is absolutely the love of his life, and one is who he ended up with. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but that's not the love of his life. And she's still there. She's still right there in Twin Peaks. Her husband's locked away in prison. She's alone. It's you really feel for Ed and you really feel for Norma. And again, two lesser actors would make those characters not have near the magic and not have near the emotional connection and the emotional punch to where we as an audience would root for them. Yeah. Even though everything they're doing is completely like by standards of society, it's very unsavory. Both of them are adulterers, but we don't look at it that way. We look at them as two characters who genuinely are meant to be together. And like Romeo and Juliet, they're just being parted by just the
circumstance, the life circumstances. But you brought up earlier tonight about like it's amazing how good of a person James is despite his life circumstances. I think Big Ed probably has a big part to play in that as his uncle.
You're Absolutely, he does. You can tell that James really respects Ed and listens to Ed. Really, like that's his surrogate dad. Let's not even play around. He might as well be his father. Honestly, he really might as well be. And I love their relationship. I love that Ed's always got James's back. The Bookhouse Boys. Again, we get more of them in this. I love that. I love how Ed is connected to the police force with the Bookhouse Boys. How he has his surrogate father relationship with James. He has that star-crossed lover thing going on with
Nadine. Norma,
like Ed is such a great character, and there's so much going on with him in any given scene that he's in that I love Big Ed. I don't think he gets talked about enough. Honestly, I think Everett McGill's work on that show top notch, and in the Return as well.
Oh yeah, I think Norma too. Like what a great.
Oh yeah.
She's again, Peggy Lipton's amazing in the role.
She's so
this
good.
Woman who has endured so much. She's built this business. She's successful, but it's not like she can luxuriate in. Like she has to work for it. She's also a surrogate mom to Shelley in a lot of ways,
and I love their relationship.
Later, she's kind of a surrogate mom to her sister. She's again, married to a criminal who's probably an abuser. I mean, we get certainly hints of that, even though it's not as explicit as with Leo and Shelley.
No, but you definitely feel tension in the room with him. Yes,
and yet she is this person like who just has accomplished so much and is independent and makes her own life and quietly suffers, but is just remarkable. And you can see why Ed loves her. It's not just because she's Peggy Lipton and she's gorgeous, but she's also there's this person that how could you not fall in love with her, right? Like,
well, and they have that. They were high school sweethearts. We find out, right? Because he was like captain of the football team. She was head cheerleader. Like it's that Norman Rockwell.
Yes.
They would have been the picturesque couple.
Yeah, they're supposed to be together. They're absolutely, by all intents and purposes, supposed to be together, and they're not.
But she ran off with the wrong guy, and
this is again in those soap opera roots. It's so soapy, but again, it's played so sincerely that it never feels fake. It never feels like a joke. It's a legitimate relationship that you can get behind and get invested in as a viewer. Ed and Norma really are just they're just so good. They're so good.
I did not know this. This is random. Sorry to go off a side route. I was looking up Peggy Lipton. I didn't know she was Rashida Jones's mom.
Yes.
I
Yes.
know, isn't that
And
crazy?
if you look at her, you can see it. Like you really can.
Once you
Rashida Jones,
know,
if they ever wanted to do a flashback story of Ed and Norma, they could cast Rashida Jones as Norma and it would work. I'd be like totally here for it too. Yeah. And
So
again,
sorry. I saw that. I was like, what?
I'm a huge Parks and Recs fan, so like that just makes that makes it all that much better. It really does. But yeah, of course, we talked about earlier. This is the episode where we get the infamous motel scene with Catherine and Ben. Ben's apparently a feet guy.
right.
Yep.
He's apparently a feet guy.
Yeah.
So he's probably a Tarantino fan.
Yeah, probably a Tarantino fan. So you get all of that. We do get the discovery of the one-armed man. And again, this is interesting because Al Strobel really was, one-armed man. And again, it's one of those, you could call it like a stunt cast just for his look, but he's great in the role. Al Strobel is very, very great in the part of Philip Gerard. And again, I love Hawk being the one trying to track him down. So we learn more about Hawk. He really is like an expert tracker. He's like, one of the best of the Bookhouse boys. Like you definitely want this guy on your team. If you're going in somewhere, you want Hawk on your side.
Yeah.
Again, we talked about all the great characters. Michael Horse as Deputy Hawk is so great in that part. He knows what he's there for. He knows what Hawk is, and he totally just gets it. And he's great. Every scene with Hawk, I love Hawk. I absolutely love every scene he's in. He's so electric on screen, even though he's not saying anything. You just he's always, again, you just look at his eyes. He's always looking at something. You can tell there's constantly, like he's like a ninja. Like he's always looking at like, what could possibly happen? Where are my escapes? Who can I go at? Like he's just literally analyzing everything that he's in. And it's just so simple. It's effortless work, man. Again,
and he works so well with the team. He's such an integral part. Like he doesn't talk down to Andy or like he's and also with the Bookhouse boys, like he's just embedded in things. Like and he doesn't he's not a loner. Like I don't know. I love how organic that family of the police force feels.
Yeah, I think we can just say the Twin Peaks Sheriff Department is just an awesome team. Like from Lucy to Andy to Sheriff Truman to Hawk, like the whole bunch of them. And you totally get why Cooper would just love working with them. Like you totally understand why he's happy to be there, why he's happy to work with that team.
Yeah.
And I love that Cooper even sees the greatness in every single one of them. Like he as the federal guy coming in who's supposed to be the dick who takes over everything. No, he trusts them and he listens to them. So when they come at him with something, Cooper's like, you know what? That's exactly what we're going to do. Right. You know this better than I do. And I love that he has such respect and admiration for every member.
Yeah. Like Lucy, they demonstrate Lucy is good at her job. And she takes care of everything. She's got her quirks, but she knows what she's doing and she does it. And
I mean, the sheriff department would not be fed or caffeinated without her.
Every night, that beautiful display of donuts. Like,
it's more than that. Like she's keeping track. Like there's a lot that she's keeping track of for sure. And so I mean, in the return, there's the funny bits about not knowing how cell phones work, whatever. But in this initial series, an initial season for sure, like you get a sense that this team, they know what they're doing. They each play their role. It's like symbiotic, right? They all have their strengths. Yeah. And I appreciate that. I love that they made them all quirky and interesting and weird in their own way. I love Hawk's. I mean, I know we get more of this later, but Hawk's connection with the Log Lady is one that I find really beautiful.
Especially in the return.
We're only getting hints of it though, because he does, again, you can see he respects her. And, and that's from early on, you get glimpses of that. And so that's great to see that foundation being built again. Taking what we know from the future, but rewatching these episodes and seeing that foundation of his respect for her was something that twigged.
Well, it's great because most people look at the Log Lady and they laugh at her, right? Even in the town of Twin Peaks, people think this woman's, but Hawk knows that she's on a different level. Yeah. Hawk gets it and he respects it. Because Hawk is also willing to say that there are forces in this universe that I don't get. You know, your true self, your evil self, like he knows there's shit out in those woods. And I really love the fact that we do in this first season when they first go to the Log Lady's place, like he's got mad respect for Margaret. Like he absolutely knows that she is she's playing 4D chess, and everybody else is playing like 2D checkers.
Right.
Like that woman is on a different level, man.
Well, I think because you hit it on the nail on the head, Kevin, that they're both attuned to something far much more supernatural and unexplainable than everybody else. Despite how weird and quirky all the citizens of Twin Peaks is, they are on a different knowing level, and I think that's why that there's that respect.
And I appreciate, you know, again, talking about the return, I appreciate how they expanded upon that with the return. You know, Hawk being out there looking for the entrance to the Black Lodge. He knows it's out there, and he knows about where it is. Really, those characters are all so fantastic. Like there's not enough time to talk
Speaking
about.
of fantastic characters that we haven't talked about yet, Audrey Horne.
Oh my God! Yes.
I'll be honest, of all the gals in Twin Peaks, as much as I love Catherine Martell, Audrey's my favorite because Audrey is such like, I really appreciate that she is like one of the heroes of this season. Like she really genuinely is. And she's willing to put herself into some really precarious situations to help Agent Cooper, to be a part of his life, you know.
Yeah.
And yes, there's that sort of schoolgirl crush, but then there's that friendship that forms there. And I love that so much. And Audrey is such there's a bravery to her that just shouldn't exist. Like she's her dad's the richest guy in town. She has all the nicest things. Like you expect she should be like that preppy, bitchy girl that is in the top of the clique and nobody else is allowed to sit at her table other than her rich little friends. And Audrey's none of that. She's
not a mean girl. She's not.
No.
Even though she and Laura weren't friends and she and Donna weren't really friends, there wasn't a bullying. There wasn't that kind of relationship at all. And I love the way, and I think I mentioned this last time, but I do love the way that her father-daughter relationship is contrasted against Laura's and her dad's, and contrasted against Donna and her dad's. And I think
especially with Donna and her dad.
Yeah.
Because you get the wholesome versus the like non-existent almost. Like it's so, and there's even that line that Ben has, like, you know, I lost you years ago, you know, and it's just like, man, even he feels it. You know what I mean? Like he knows it. He knows that they're not what they should be. You know,
but she's just someone who beats to her own drum. But
and that's
I like
about what I was getting ready to say about Audrey. She's not a mean girl, but at the same time, she's still kind of like an odd girl out. Yeah. Like she really doesn't fit in with everybody else, and she doesn't want to. Right. That's what I love about Audrey. She does,
but she's also not bullied or intimidated by anyone either. She's like, I'm going to do what I think is right, and I'm going to do what I want to do.
And I love
she makes some mistakes, but but it's earnest and it's brave, like you said. And I mean, she's 18, so she's a kid. She's going to make
exactly.
Mistakes. But she has this crush, which thank God they went in the direction of crush and not the way they were originally intending. But they are building her into such an interesting, and she was a break. Like, again, I don't believe it was the original intention of the show for her to be one of the main characters, and yet this happened, and she became this breakout character that's so fascinating. And I mean, her really good moments are coming up in the next few episodes. But we're seeing the seeds of that get laid, and again, the build up to who she can be is so interesting, and I love seeing her sort of come into her own here in these.
I will say though, I do love the glee with which she like completely screws her dad over with the Norse guys.
And
I'm so sad, and they're all just like, "We're getting out of here. There's been a murder." Like,
she's got a little bit of that Machiavellian little stinker Bugs Bunny energy.
Yeah,
but
I like
the fact
big Bugs Bunny energy. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the fact that Sherilyn Fenn didn't go on to become a huge movie star after the show is criminal.
It is. It really is. Like she should have done so much more.
Oh yeah. I also like how she starts to build a connection with Donna and that scene in the bathroom.
Yes.
Like, there's just little moments like that I think are just so well done, and their performances are both so good. She's, really showing this excitement and this desire to try to be a hero, like you said.
Yeah.
Like she's working on trying to save,
sending the notes for Agent Cooper, putting him in his hotel room and stuff.
That's what I was going to ask. Did we see that part in these episodes? Where she slips the note? We don't know it's her yet. I think.
Yeah, I think he got the one that says, "Look, Jack with one eye." I think he's
right.
got that.
Yes, she did.
Related to it.
Yeah, she leads him on the path to the one-eyed Jacks, and then they get that poker chip, and yeah.
So she does help, even if it's, maybe in a bit of a roundabout way. She does help.
Yeah. Audrey really is like, again, of all the ladies in Twin Peaks, she's my favorite by far. Like I love her energy. She's like such a troll, and I love that about her. Like she's got big troll energy, and I love that. She's just, she's just great. You get her dance scene at the Double R. She's just in her own
drinking coffee because that's what Agent Cooper likes to drink.
And again, that dance scene was improvised. Like once again, happy accident. He said he threw out of the script as he tends to do that in the episodes he directs, and he had Paul Diamante write this song, and he said, "I'm going to play this song, and I just want you to dance to it." And she just had to do something. And again, iconic television.
Oh man, yeah,
absolutely.
It's amazing how many iconic moments are just in these first 4 episodes. Like it's insane how much is there. But yeah, we also, the big thing, of course, in this episode, we know that obviously Hank gets out of prison, so takes up everything there, and Josie.
Yep, something's going on there.
And we see him that creepy sucking on that domino. It's just it's so eerie and creepy, and I don't like it at all. It's creepy. But we also the other big thing with this though is we also see the meeting between Ben and Leo about setting the fire at the mill. So that has been put into motion in this scene. So we now know that Ben and Catherine, and now he's brought Leo into it. They're about to make their big move on the mill. Like it's about to go down. Josie's trying to get whatever kind of evidence she can. And then, of course, we learn about the second ledger suddenly just goes bye-bye. And oh my.
Well, and I love that addition of Hank really helps to show how interconnected all of the characters are in this small town, right? And that adds to the soapy element. But I mean, again, he should have no connection whatsoever to Josie, right?
Right.
But there is, and we find out why. Right? And at this point, we still don't know. All we know is that she's scared. And there's, but as Norma's ex, or not ex, I guess they're still technically married.
They're still technically married, yeah.
Yeah, like it just shows that very soapy interconnectedness of all the characters, which is just, again, so much fun for television, right? And watching these shows.
The final thing we need to talk about too. The final thing here that we need to talk about is the bloody shirt. Leo's bloody shirt. This is the episode he gets it and plants it in Jacques Renault's place, and Jacques ends up getting the blame on that. So we start that whole process. So we're about to find out about Flesh World and all that good stuff. But yes, in this episode is where that shirt finally has moments.
And he kills Jacques' brother because the brother gives away too much info.
Yep. So we get a lot of intrigue going on. Leo is just really becoming more and more and more the most despicable of characters. And again, it's such a red herring. Like, at this point, it can't be him. It's too
on the nose.
Yeah, it would be too on the nose.
We also know that he's definitely involved in some shady shit. And we know he's got to be involved with Laura, which, of course, we find out in the long run, of course he was. But there's so much in this episode. Again, these early episodes do all that heavy lifting of getting everything in play. And so now, when we come back and talk about the next episode, Hank is now officially in play. He is now officially an employee, and brother, it gets nuts from there. So this has been a tremendous 3 episodes of television.
Has been,
you really look at it. It's been phenomenal, and it's one of those things where when I always look back at talking about perfect seasons of television.
Yeah,
Twin Peaks season 1 is always at the very top of my list. There are other great seasons of television I will put up in the high ranks. Lost, in particular, I think the first season of Lost is one of the greatest things ever. Again, it's much like with Twin Peaks, it was only like 8 episodes, and it just came out of nowhere, and it ends on a massive cliffhanger, and you're like, oh wow, this is so great. And then we go on. But with Twin Peaks, that first season is, to me, like, it's like the standard setter. This is how you create a TV show. This is how you create relationships. This is how you build suspense. This is how you build interest. This is how you can use humor and horror and all of these things mixed together. I mean, it really is sort of a kitchen sink approach when you think about it. Everything you can think of, supernatural, scary, just, like just people being scary in general, just because they're not afraid to murder someone, like a Leo Johnson. You've got humor, you've got quirk, you've got dream sequences, you've got,
soapy love stories,
soapy love stories,
family drama.
Yeah, family drama. Yeah. You've got the intrigue of a mill getting burned down, like, a major landmark in the town, like everything that you should know to do in creating a series is in this first season. Like if you were to tell someone in film school, hey, I want to make a TV show, watch the first season of Twin Peaks. That's how you world build. That's how you build character. That's how you build relationships. It's all there. It's a perfect blueprint for creating what is genuinely at that time the most must-see TV that was on. I mean, I know NBC had that thing, but ABC had the must-see TV show at that time. And nothing was even close.
And just to think about what it did for television, whether you realize it or not, this was kind of the first, like, oh, I can't skip an episode. This is where it's like one episode leads to the next. There's no filler episodes that TV would go to. And the reason I call this Lynch's magnum opus is because he gets to explore so much more of what he was hinting at in Blue Velvet, which I love Blue Velvet, but it's a 2-hour movie. And here he's getting to like peel back even more of the layers of like that seedy underbelly of what darkness that's going on in Americana.
But I think we should also give Mark Frost the props too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And again, as coming out of police dramas and other sort of nighttime sort of serials that he had been doing in the 80s, this is also his real, like, I'm just going to shoot for the stars and I'm going to, and it's the combination. It's almost like two artists that shouldn't work together, but when they do, it just becomes this thing that never would have existed otherwise, I think.
Well, with Mark Frost, I'll always put 3 words out there, man. Hill Street Blues.
Yeah, which is another groundbreaking television show.
It was a groundbreaking show. It redefined the cop drama, honestly. It really did. And it was the darling of the Emmys. It was the darling of critics. My dad did not miss Hill Street Blues. Like, he did not miss that show. Also an iconic theme song. It's like Mark Frost took all of that with David Lynch's stuff and they created Twin Peaks, which is also must-see television. It's got the cop drama and a phenomenal theme song. So it's like he was able to carry that around. But no, I think Mark Frost is an important part of it because
absolutely.
I think all the procedural stuff in Twin Peaks is definitely Mark Frost's strong suit, whereas all of these supernatural and quirky stuff is David Lynch, and it's definitely peanut butter and chocolate. They made a tremendous.
That's right.
Some of the soap opera tropes be Mark Frost too.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. When you look at writing for television in the 70s and 80s, if you were doing any kind of drama, there was still that soapy side to it, and Mark Frost definitely had that pedigree, So putting him and Lynch together is really one of the smartest things you could have ever imagined. And on paper, you wouldn't look at their backgrounds and think, oh yeah, the guy who made Eraserhead should totally work with the guy who made Hill Street Blues.
Right.
It doesn't make sense, and that's why it's so great. That's why it works. They each
they complement each other. Well, I just heard somebody tweet about this because the Coen brothers had broke up, right? Joel Coen made The Tragedy of Macbeth, and Ethan Coen's got that comedy coming out that him and his wife did, and someone's like, Joel on his own is a little too dark and serious, and Ethan is a little too quirky on his own. Maybe that's why they
need each other. Right. It's symbiotic relationship.
Well, we'll be able to talk about Mark because Mark Frost directed the season finale of this season, right?
Yes.
So it'll be interesting for us probably next time to talk about how we see that sort of play itself out. And again, I think you're right about this season. Like we talked about the sort of the first half of it with the first 4 episodes now, and the last 3, again, no filler. Like
it's a whirlwind.
Yeah, we get so much in the next few episodes, and there's so many great things to talk about. I can't wait to rewatch them and start talking about it, because there's just so many great things in the next 3 episodes to talk about.
And I want to give a quick shout out to all of the folks out there, you know, the SAG-AFTRA strike, the writer's strike. I want to make sure we put a big shout out to every one of them. We stand with you.
Yes.
We want to make sure that is known. Every one of you, we stand with you. The actors, every one of you, we stand with you. The writers, every one of you, we stand with you. If there's, you know, anything out there that you know, you look at a show like Twin Peaks, since that's what we've been talking about. And if you don't have the writers, if you don't have the actors, you don't have this show.
No.
Even the most farthest in the background actor who's there is doing something to make that scene work.
Frank Silva
has a part. Yeah, Frank Silva
is a great example.
Yeah,
of that exactly.
Yeah, right. A set designer who becomes one of the most iconic images and characters in television history.
No, you're 100% right on that.
Yes, is, you know, without them, we don't get the shows that we get, and you know, I just want to make sure we definitely put that out there. We're talking about David Lynch. We're talking about Twin Peaks. Go buy a copy of Twin Peaks. Don't stream it. Don't do anything. Go buy a physical copy. Support support the makers. Support the people who brought it to life. Because when you stream it, they don't get anything. Go buy it.
Yeah, which is the whole thing that is part of what they're striking about, because they don't get any residuals from that at all.
Someone showed a fact today that one of the shows on Netflix was streamed like 1.2 million hours, and the people who wrote it got $3,000.
Right.
Yeah, that's insane. Which television is a writer's medium. You don't have a show without a writer.
No, exactly. I'm a big fan of physical media. I've bought Twin Peaks 3 times now.
I know. I've got 3 sets myself. I got the original set with the DTS tracks when they remastered it, the gold set, and the Z to A. So I've got it 3 different ways myself. And I own every Lynch film that I have. Everything I have of his is a physical medium. I don't just have it like bought on streaming. I've got physical copies of each, especially the Criterions. I just got the Criterion.
Well, and I'm glad I did, because the streamer in Canada that was airing Twin Peaks pulled it, so it's not on there anymore.
Oh,
so
wow!
The only way for me to watch it now is on my physical media. So I'm glad I have it.
I'm glad you have it, because that's
all of you out there picketing. We stand with you. We love you, and to all of you who are, you know, viewers of the content, where you can, man, please make your voice heard with your wallet. Go purchase the thing. Don't stream. Go purchase it. Support them in any way that you can. And I look forward to seeing the strike come to an end with the writers and the actors getting what they deserve. With all due respect, fuck the execs. Power to the people.
Yeah, and I want to add one more thing to that for anyone who was watching this now or later. It's easy for you to think, oh, these actors are on strike, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's anyone who appears on a movie or television show. This is not just your A-list celebrities who make multi-million dollars. There's a lot of actors out there living in Los Angeles right now who work for less than poverty wages because they don't get enough work.
There's a reason you had that stereotypical joke of like every actor is like a waiter or a waitress. That's because they are. They literally have to have backup revenue so that they can pay the bills, because they're not constantly getting in stuff. As a matter of fact, this strike really hits about 90 to 95% of working actors. That small 5% that are making the millions of dollars that you see their names all over stuff, they're not the ones this is about. It's the other 90% who genuinely have to have multiple jobs just to be able to work as an actor or an actress, and that's ridiculous. Even our writers, they don't get paid as much as you think they get paid. Even ones who've won Academy Awards, they're not making millions upon millions of dollars. They're lucky if they can sell one script, and if that script goes through a whole bunch of processes where people edit the shit out of it, then they get less and less and less each time that happens. So it is absolutely bigger than you think it is. And we're all going to feel the sting of this in 2024 when we're all for any kind of content, man.
We're going to feel it in the fall if this thing doesn't wrap up soon with TV. with
Yeah.
television, which I think we're getting streaming shows released on network television right now, are planning
Right.
to.
Right.
And the other thing I think I heard somewhere that, like, you know, an average actor might make 75 to 80,000 a year, which that sounds like a lot of money, right? But not in Los Angeles.
No.
And that's also, you know, them getting jobs here or there. That's not even working consistently. But they said with that salary, that's poverty level in Los Angeles.
Well, yeah, you got to look at cost of living, and you know that's not a living wage when if you've got a family. That's not a living wage in Los Angeles.
Well,
I mean,
and you know what? And entertainment and art is so important to all of our lives.
Yes, it is.
Like, this is not like, you know, we could just live without it, right? Like, the whether it's music or movies or television or books, like, we are, you know, as human beings, this is so essential to our culture, to our daily lives. I mean, we all consume so much of this, and I mean, imagine just not having any of that available. Come on, like,
it's one of those things where I'm not who I am without the movies and television and music that was there with me when I was growing up. I'm not who I am without Jaws and the Star Wars trilogy and Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm not who I am without David Lynch or James Cameron or Martin Scorsese. Like, my love of film started at such an early age. And if those things weren't there, I don't know what I'd even be into at this point. Like, what would I even care about? And as
what I talk about,
I do theater, I act. I also am working on writing, and I'm actually working on something to hopefully make for a pitch to some execs down the road after all this strike stuff, obviously. But that's, again, a passion of mine. I've done so much theater. I've met so many of my best friends through theater, and I've done improv, and I've done writing, and I've done all these things. And I don't have those passions. I don't have those interests. And I don't meet the people in my life if I don't get inspired by those things as a kid. And so, yes, art is so critical, and the visual arts, the you know, music, it's all so critical. So that's why this strike is so important. It's not people complaining, oh, I only made $5 million last year. No, it's not that. It's not that at all.
Well, the fact that there are actors who are getting scanned for their likeness and not being used. What is his name? Devon Sawa. The guy that was in Sawa. Yeah. He said he didn't know he was in Final Destination 5 till he got an invite to the premiere. He did not get paid for them using his likeness in that movie.
And let me tell you right now, the AI thing is going to be a big issue.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
It needs to be addressed. Because
it needs to be worked out in a way that's fair. I mean, it's going to be there.
If you don't think some Hollywood exec would say, I won't pay a writer the rest of my life, I'll use Chat GPT to write my scripts, you better believe they'd do it. They would
absolutely. They basically have said they would do that.
Yeah. I'll just say this, you know, it's just wherever you can throw that support out there, because it does matter. If you care about art, if you care about the entertainment that's made your life so great, the things that you're passionate about, then this matters, man. This is a big moment. And I'm genuinely hoping this comes to a resolve soon. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case. I hope as soon as possible, because there are some amazing human beings who act and write, and they deserve to be working, and they deserve to be paid a legitimately decent wage to do so, because, you know, we get to enjoy the fruits of their labor. It's only right that they get paid for that labor.
That's right. 100%.
Yeah.
Thanks for
absolutely. Yes, thank you. I knew we wanted to bring it up, but I wasn't sure where to bring it up in the show. So thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, we definitely got to put that out there, man, because it's you know, we are with you guys, man. We are with you.
Well, thank you guys. Another great discussion in depth. Thanks for resurfacing my memory on the episodes I watched 2 weeks ago. What are you guys both going to be out of commission for Labor Day weekend?
I don't know. We'll have to look at that.
Not necessarily.
We've only got 3 episodes to finish out.
That's what I was saying. Let's wrap up season 1 for this next discussion.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking Sunday, September the 3rd, if that works for everybody.
Yeah, that should be good. And hey, we'll tie it in with, like, you know, we'll have like a Labor Day telethon like Jerry Lewis used to do. We'll just,
right.
I
I
think
always
that's
as a
good
kid,
for me.
I was like, I always,
Labor Day is one of the holidays that we get here at the same time as you guys, so that works for me.
Oh, that's cool. All
Like,
right. Well,
it's not the case now, but as a kid, I always knew it was time for school to start when the Jerry Lewis Labor Day telethon came out, because I knew the day that was finished on that Sunday, the next day was when school was going to start. Now it starts like in August, but back in the day, that's how I kept track of my summer. I knew when that Labor Day telethon came out, I was like, that's it. It's my last hurrah. So I hope Charo and everybody bring out the goods, because this is the last thing I get to watch before the end. Ed McMahon, you bastard, make it work. Make it worth my time.
all right. Well, thank you guys. You guys have a great week.
Stay cool down there.
I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
I hope the air continues to stay fine up there in Canada.
Yes.
Kevin, I hope things are going well for you, and I hope West Virginia is not too hot.
We're doing okay right now. We had a lot of smoke from Canada coming down this way about a month ago, but this week's been just kind of overcast. We'll take it. I'm not in the sweltering heat like you guys are. That's for sure. Nowhere near that.
That's good.
Yeah, we are praying for fall to get here as soon as possible.
Well,
they are already cranking Halloween stuff. I think people are just ready for fall.
You should just come up here and visit. In a couple weeks, it'll start cooling down here. We start our fall at the beginning of September without a problem. You should just come up here, and it's nice and cool.
There it is, man. There it is. There's
Yeah.
your invitation.
I would love to, and in fact, my stepdaughter lives in Detroit, so she sees Canada from her apartment.
You can see it from her house. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like Sarah Palin. Yeah, that's right.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you guys later. You guys have a good night, and thank you again.
Always a pleasure, guys. Take care.
Yes, take care, you guys.
Bye.
Oh, where do I